The wrestling world is about to add one more prime time show, and the main event has already been announced. So, how do we feel? The greatest storyline in wrestling history turns another page, enters another chapter, if you will. But where, with all the twists and turns, where are we going to end up? And then finally, two more major pay-per-view pictures are starting to become clear. We're going to give you all of our thoughts and break all of that down on this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. The bomb drops.
All of you friendly, nice, amazing people.
Oh, hi everyone. We love you so much.
This is the best.
It's TSF.
This is it real?
Hunter Knott.
Oh my god.
And you're listening to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 25, season 4 of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher, and joining me in the room today, Mr. Andy York, the young buck. Yeah. Another week, man, a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff,
man.
Yeah, I feel like both WWE and AEW are turning things up, heading towards the summer months.
It seems that way.
And it normally feels like April, May, and June are normally like, I don't want to say the dead months of wrestling, but
not as focused
on, but yeah. That hasn't been true the last couple of years.
That is true.
Like. So it's getting a lot better, and it's a lot of fun.
It is very true this year, and they seem to be, we always talk about AEW, how they don't have a whole lot of pay-per-views, but it seems like when they have them, now we're squashing them all together.
Yes.
So we got to talk about a whole lot at one time. Makes it difficult sometimes, but it gives us a lot of wrestling to watch.
It does.
Thank you for joining us here on the show. If this is your first time, make sure you're subscribed wherever you find your podcast. Subscribed on our YouTube channel. We would appreciate that very much. And if you're listening on Sports Wire Radio, support those guys and everything else they do. I know they would appreciate it. Follow us at PBW Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That would be fantastic. All right, Old School 101. We haven't done it in a couple of weeks, but as we're looking at the calendar, what are we celebrating this week? Well, Andy, one of the most monumental pay-per-views in WWE history happened on June 12th, 2005. So not super old school, but we got to talk about it.
Yeah, we got to talk about it because we're talking about ECW, One Last Stand, and boy, is it fun.
Oh my gosh.
Because we've been talking about like wrestling crowds a lot recently.
Yes.
Because the Puerto Rico crowd was fantastic. We're expecting the Money in the Bank crowd to be fantastic. WrestleMania crowd was fantastic.
Wembley
is going to be fantastic. I feel like this show is the first the crowd's real. Like the crowd can really make or break a lot in a wrestling show, because this show, the crowd was nuclear.
Yep.
All night long.
It was insane. It was the first one night stand pay-per-view in the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, 2005. We hadn't seen ECW in I think 5 years at this point. So apparently this was a brainchild of RVD. He wanted this pay-per-view, and here we go. It happened. The crowd, like you said, was just nuclear.
Right.
And then as a fan watching this at home, I remember watching it live and just not knowing what I was going to get with these ECW guys, because most of them we hadn't seen since the end of ECW.
Yeah.
But man, what a show, delivered on all fronts. We saw the first flaming table spot in WWE history at the end of the main event. And just a wild show that set up, I don't want to say it changed the trajectory of WWE,
right,
but it certainly put the wheels in motion. And I'm not talking about the ECW brand.
Right.
I'm just saying it really opened up new doors for WWE to be able to do things and it be okay.
They realized, I think this was the first show that they realized they could do something outside of their norm and it would work. And I feel like this was like a big, massive success for them in that regard. In that case, was this the show? Because I get the two.
Yeah, some of the things run together. Yes.
Is this the one where Paul Heyman cut the promo, or is it the next one?
This is the one where Heyman cuts the promo at the very beginning.
So that the only reason why you're champion is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays?
Okay. Yes. I'm fairly certain that was this one.
That was like that's one of the most iconic lines and promos.
Yes, it was, because the end of the night had Steve Austin come out and they had the brawl in the middle of the ring.
Where JBL punched Blue Meanie for punched him in the face. Yeah.
So all that was on the same show. Yes.
Okay. So that was a lot of fun. The main event for this one was
Dudley's against Sandman and Tommy Dreamer.
Because the main event for the second one is the one where the crowd was
Cena and RVD.
Ridiculous the entire time.
Yep.
But yeah, this one was, I think people remember the second one a lot more because of the Cena RVD stuff, because of a couple other stuff. And the cards, like I said, they run together. This one is this one with Sabu and Ray?
No, Sabu and Ray was the second one. This one was Sabu and Rhino.
That's right.
It was Ray and Psychosis.
Yeah.
In this one.
Yep. Which the matches, they're just ridiculous anyway when you go back and watch them. But it's such a fun, weird time for WWE because they only do two. Mm-hmm. And obviously the rebranding of ECW in WWE is not nearly as good, not even close to being as good as what ECW was. So these two were like the last two important moments in the last two moments of ECW.
Sure.
Was these two pay-per-views.
Yeah, for sure. And you had the renewed rivalry of Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka, which
if those two dudes.
If you guys have never seen their ECW matches,
they literally beat the crap out of each other every single time.
And then who can forget on this pay-per-view, Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero on this pay-per-view. My goodness, just great stuff.
Is this is where Sandman came to?
Yes.
Sandman the only time he was the only time he came out, and it took him 20 years to get to the ring because of the fans and chugging beers and everything else.
So good. It was so good. Oh my goodness. What a pay-per-view. I remember watching it live and just being enthralled with what happened. Is just so good. So that's Old School 101 this week. ECW One Night Stand. If you haven't watched it in a long time, I know I say this all the time, Andy, on the show. If you haven't watched something, go watch it. But listen, go watch ECW One Night Stand. It is unlike any pay-per-view you'll ever watch in your life.
Absolutely.
So good. Andy, you mentioned the second one. The second one is so good, but the first one is just bonkers.
Yeah, it's really great.
So go watch it. Also, one thing that I need you to do, head on over to WrestleBuddy. Go check out our friends over at WrestleBuddy. Andy and I have several pieces over there that you can go check out. There are fantasy drafts over there. There are interviews over there. Jimmy Bebe does a fantastic Raw recap immediately after Raw. So go check that out. Lots of good stuff over at WrestleBuddy. Our buddy Tyler Peters does the weekly wrap up, does a fantastic job. Yvonne does great videos over there. Of course, Alex and the rest of the team. Go check out WrestleBuddy. You will be pleased. I promise. It's a great wrestling resource. Before we get into content this week, it's time to bring back another segment that we haven't done in a couple of weeks, and that is the Pipe Bomb of the Week. It is your space to rant and rave and to get off your chest something that really aggravates you about wrestling. And generally, I'll go first. Generally, when I do this, I like to talk about the internet wrestling community because people just drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to talk about them this week.
Oh, wow.
This week, it does have to do with AEW, though.
Oh, no.
This week, talking about Tony Khan and his repeated announcements every single week on Dynamite. Why? Every single week. Just make yourself part of the show. Does it really increase viewership anymore? It just doesn't feel special anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who cares now? It's not a special or huge announcement anymore. It's just Tony Khan saying something now.
Well, I think most of the time, I agree. I think they do way too many announcements. I think right now it makes somewhat sense because they're doing an announcement basically a week until Collision, to sell Collision, which I get, and that makes a lot of sense. But he did a lot of them beforehand.
So brand it as something like, okay, each and every week up to Collision, I'm going to give you an update on what's going to happen, or brand it, make it something other than, well, Tony Khan's going to join us again for a huge announcement. Who cares? It's almost like they're doing this to try to combat the internet wrestling community so that they don't get ahead
probably
of what AEW is doing now.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
They might be doing that.
Which I can understand, but gosh, they're killing me. They're killing me with this. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I get so annoyed. All right. You got something to rant and rave about this week?
I can always find something to rant and rave about. I mean, I could always rant and rave about bad finishes and blah, blah, whatever else. Honestly, my biggest rant has been something I've been ranting about since WrestleMania 39.
Oh no.
And that is, I don't need Cody with adversity. Okay. I don't need Cody anything else other than focused on what he should be doing. And I would argue this week he kind of has done that. Mm-hmm. I'm still of the belief that Cody has lost a lot since WrestleMania 39. Okay. A lot of steam, a lot of momentum. I think the woes are great and they're loud and they're big and he's getting a big reaction every time he comes out. But could you imagine the Roman Reigns storyline without the title right now, which we'll talk about that in a second. Mm-hmm. But also, could you imagine this Brock Cody feud
with the title? Mm.
Like, it's just, they backed themselves into this corner. They wanted to hit the 1,000-day mark. Now they've hit the 1,000-day mark, and they have put out one of the most organic stories they have had probably since WrestleMania 35 with Becky.
Yep.
And have kind of killed it a little. Mm. And I don't see, I'm at the point now where I don't necessarily want to see Cody Roman again at WrestleMania this year.
Okay. All right.
That could all change. That could all happen at some other point. But as of right now, I would much rather see Roman and Seth than Roman and Cody.
I think I'm with you, and I think a lot of people are with you too. But I also don't think that's a bad thing. That's just my opinion. I don't necessarily. I'm okay with that. But speaking of Cody, I was going to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now since you brought it up. I did not know that I wanted to see him and Dom in a feud. But I absolutely, after Monday, I want to see this.
Who would have thought,
right?
This time last year, that we said that Dominic Mysterio was in a segment with Cody, and it actually worked.
Yep.
And that Dominic was actually doing his part as the heel.
Yep.
He's so good at being the heel right now that it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep. He's so good. And I think that helps Cody even more to build him up, and it's a great, if we are waiting until SummerSlam to get this Brock thing, to get Brock match number 3 with Cody, it's a great holdover, especially if Cody and Dom, neither one's going to be in the Money in the Bank match. Have that match. That's fine. I'm cool with that. And that's a great way to have Brock show up on Money in the Bank and all that kind of stuff. So good stuff. All right, let's move on and answer the biggest questions in the world of wrestling. You teased it. Let's start with it. The Bloodline does it again. Another page has been turned. Man, what a segment on SmackDown.
Yeah.
It was so emotional and powerful and shocking. And full disclosure, I watched this after it happened live.
I did too.
So I knew what happened.
Yeah.
But I still was on the edge of my seat the entire time. You know it's good when that happens.
Yeah.
So my question is it's not really a big question. It's what's next? You know what I mean? Where do we go?
The thing is, so when is Money in the Bank?
July 1st.
So we're not that far away.
No, we are
Money in the Bank.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. And we still don't have a clear picture of
4 weeks from today, maybe.
We don't have a clear picture of what Roman's doing. We know he's going to be there in wrestling, but we don't know what he's doing yet, which is very interesting.
3 weeks. 3 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay.
It's Money in the Bank.
So I don't know what's next for Roman. I do find it interesting that Seth has already defended the world title as many times as Roman has since WrestleMania. Actually more.
If you count live events, more.
Wow, that's okay. But that's very interesting that we don't know what's going to happen at Money in the Bank because it's all wrapped within this Bloodline storyline. Yep. And I don't think they're going to do one of the Usos and Roman for that title at Money in the Bank.
Okay. So you're thinking Romo and Romo, listen to me. Roman and Solo equals Romo against the Usos?
Maybe it might need to make see, but I thought that would happen at SummerSlam too. So I don't know what's actually going to happen at Money to Make. Like I have no idea where this story is heading right now.
I think you need to get Roman and Jimmy out of the way before you have the tag match.
Probably. Because
I think the tag match, unless the Usos win the tag match and pin Solo, I don't know the way to go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like you have to have the singles first, because I think it's going to be a thing, because you saw at the end of SmackDown, Paul Heyman asked Roman about, what about Jay?
Yeah.
And he said Jay's going to fall in line. So now we need to give Jay the opportunity to fall in line, which I know that's supposed to happen on SmackDown tonight.
Yeah.
But I think on a bigger scale, you have Roman versus Jimmy. Jay has the opportunity to fall in line at Money in the Bank. He doesn't, and that gets us to SummerSlam in the tag match.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to go about it. And I agree. I think we do need to get Jimmy and Roman out of the way before we do the tag match, and obviously before we do Roman and Jay, at some point down the line. Man, I think we're doing Roman and Solo at some point down the line too.
Oh, 100% we're headed that way.
So I don't know when all this is going to unfold.
You mentioned Roman and Cody for WrestleMania, and you mentioned Roman and Seth.
Yeah,
we could go Roman and Solo.
Yeah,
at WrestleMania.
See, I think to me, Roman and Jay fits WrestleMania better than Roman and Solo.
I totally agree.
And I think Roman and Solo could happen before Roman and Jay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think after the tag match, Solo could eat the pin. Roman could start like going after him, berating him or whatever, and then he turns on Roman, joins his brothers, and then we kind of have like Roman versus the Bloodline, basically.
Did that pop when Solo turned on SmackDown? Man. Like when he said he was going with his brothers? Oh my gosh, that was insane.
Yeah, I did not see that happening, and then I did not see the second turn happening at the same. Like that was just the way they did that was just ridiculous.
It was so good. Whatever, like the way that Roman and Heyman and everybody's been talking throughout this whole storyline, like we can't get anywhere near wrapping this up until Rikishi gets involved.
I need them to kill Rikishi. I need
Rikishi on my screen in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
I need it. I need Alpha and Sika to come back.
Yeah.
I need something. I know they.
I mean, we haven't even talked about The Rock in this whole scenario.
Well, I think they're avoiding that, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's one of those that we don't. I said this after WrestleMania. I don't need The Rock anymore.
Right.
Like, I don't need that Roman Rock. I mean, would I like to see it? Absolutely. But I don't need to see it anymore.
The crumbling of the bloodline from within is now way more interesting than The Rock coming after trying to take the bloodline down.
Yeah.
Because the bloodline's taking itself down.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we don't necessarily, I'm not saying we don't need Rock. Like you said, it would be great to have Rock. But we're at the point now where like Rock doesn't have to come in and be the savior.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That world title, Roman gets presented brand new undisputed Universal Championship belt. I guess he's going to only have one now.
Yeah.
It initially looked a little rough. It's growing on me now. I don't think it looks as bad. I was the same with Seth's World Heavyweight Championship too.
Yeah, I like Seth. Like I think the World Heavyweight Championship has grown on me a lot.
Yeah, me too.
This one's going to take some time. This one's rough for me. It's way too much yellow and gold. Like there's just they need to realize that there's more than one design since The Rock debuted his. Like The Rock debuted his, and it's been that design. They've just changed the color a couple of times. Like I think we should have gone like a completely different route.
But remember, you know, like we've talked about before, when other sports win championships, and they send it. You know, that's why they do it. And I honestly I don't mind the design. I love it. I think it's great. I don't hate it at all. The color, again, I'm gonna have to get used to a little bit, but I said the same thing about Seth's title, and then the second or third time that I saw it on TV, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
So I think give this one a time or two.
That's the problem, though. We're not going to see this one on TV a lot, so it's going to be hard to get used to this one.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But it is what it is. I think it's fine for Roman. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. I don't know.
It'll take a minute. It'll take a minute.
It is. You're right. It's going to take a minute.
Yeah,
for sure. I agree. Let's move on to our second question in the world of wrestling. Man, two of the most unthinkable, massive, incredible, mind-blowing dream matches are scheduled for Forbidden Door. Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay again. Bryan Danielson and Okada. Now, we're not going to speculate. We're not going to speculate what's going to happen, who's going to win, blah, blah, blah. But listen, these two matches, did you ever think that you would be living in a world not only where these two matches would happen, not only where they would happen on the same night, but in the same venue on the same show?
I can't tell you how many times I've thought about buying a ticket to Toronto and going to the show. Like, if I could, I would absolutely be at this show, because it is, like you said, two dream matches, the same venue, the same place. But that Bryan Danielson Okada match is just going to be
wild,
special. So special. And I hope it goes on last. I hope it main events the show. I hope they go. Listen, let them go an hour. I'm fine if they wrestle an hour. It's one of those, when Bryan Danielson decided to leave WWE, this was one of the matches that we were like, he needs to do.
Sure.
And I'm so glad that we were finally getting to do it.
And he's doing it. Let me play devil's advocate for a second. We've seen dream matches before. We've seen them not live up to expectations. Not saying that Bryan and Okada are incapable of living up to expectations, but you talk about setting a bar. Like, this goes way above a bar set for AJ and Shinsuke. This goes way above a bar set for, this is the modern current day wrestling dream match of all dream matches. Like, this is it. So I say that to say this has the most pressure of any match that we have seen in probably 20 years.
Well, I think you could throw in, I mean, the thing with Okada is Okada, I think, has had that pressure with every Kenny match he had. Because each one was better and better and better. Like, because going into Kenny Okada 4, that had a ridiculous amount of pressure behind it.
But
and
again,
they more than delivered on it.
Sure.
I think, and I think you're going to love what I'm about to say, so get ready for it.
Okay.
I think if this was taking place in the WWE ring, my expectations for this would be lower than they are right now. Because I don't want to say they're held back more, but they're limited.
Sure.
In what they can do.
There's a WWE way.
There is. In AEW and Forbidden Door, I think this thing is so wide open that I don't even know what to expect.
Sure.
But I just expect something great. I think there's a chance they may underdeliver? Maybe a little.
Sure.
But just the fact that they're in the same ring together is kind of enough for me in a lot of ways.
Oh, and I think that's enough for a lot of people too. You know what I mean? Like, This Is Awesome chants are going to start when the bell rings.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's going to be wild.
And
I'm with you. I hope this match goes on last. I hope they give them an hour. I hope they, do their thing. I just think that this has, I don't count the second, third, and fourth Kenny and Okada match because it had already happened. This has never happened. These two guys have not touched. So for the first time, I think this has the most pressure of any match I've ever seen.
This is the equivalent of like a Seth and Will Ospreay finally locking up.
I think it's bigger than that.
Probably bigger. I think Seth and Will, is getting to that point.
That's huge.
Getting to that point.
It is certainly huge.
But this one, like this, we're talking about maybe the greatest New Japan Pro wrestler of all time.
Sure.
In Okada. And we're talking about maybe the greatest wrestler of all time in Bryan Danielson coming together. Like, I think there's an argument for Bryan Danielson. He's basically almost already on my Mount Rushmore of like in-ring greatest wrestlers of all time.
Hard not to put him there.
Okada is hard not to put on there as well. Like, Okada is ridiculous. So I think we're looking at just a masterclass of what pro wrestling is when these two guys finally lock up.
I agree. It would be very difficult to convince me that this is not the biggest dream match in the last 25 years.
It's going to be very hard to convince me that this will not be the match of the year.
Match of
match of the century,
match
maybe.
of AEW history. Like I know we're bending
There's
the rules a little bit
yeah.
there because Okada's not technically
I'll say
AEW,
this though,
but
it's going to be hard to beat Cody and Dustin.
that
It's going to be hard to beat MJF and Danielson.
Right.
It's going to be hard to beat the Luchas and the Bucks steel cage match.
Or the first ladder match.
Or the first ladder match, or Kenny and Page versus the Bucks.
Right.
But if any match is going to beat it, it's going to be Danielson and Okada. Or it's going to be Omega Okada 5. Because they're just going to wrestle for 2 hours instead of an hour and just tear the house down again.
It will definitely be interesting. Speaking of Seth and Ospreay and this happening in a WWE ring, little teaser. We'll tell you what we're going to do next week. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. I don't think I've told Andy what we're going to do next week. We'll preview that at the end of the show. So get ready for that.
Breaking news for me too.
It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Moving back over to the WWE side. It seems like we're headed back towards Rollins and Balor. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Let's go. It's going to be great. But on the way, it seems like there's some dissension within the Judgment Day. I know there's been some rumors of adding JD McDonough.
Yeah.
I know there's, we've even speculated on this show, like Rhea should go off on her own, blah, blah, whatever. But are you okay with the dissension that seems to be within Priest and Balor? Would you rather them not? What are your thoughts?
No,
on
I'm
this?
cool with it because I think after Backlash, Damian, and after Raw, Damian Priest has kind of shown that he can go on his own now and can be a main event guy in WWE. I think where we're heading is after Finn and Seth at Money in the Bank. If Seth retains, I think Finn gets removed and gets replaced by JD.
Oh, so Finn gets kicked out for JD.
Yeah, for JD, and we run with JD, Rhea, Dom, and Damian moving forward.
I like that, and you feud
and Finn goes
and
face.
JD.
Yeah, and Finn turns face.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on board for that. And you have Priest basically being the leader.
Yeah, honestly at this point, I think Rhea's the leader.
Well, yes, that is true. But Priest acting as the de facto. Yeah, I got you. Also, speaking of Seth Rollins and all this, I'm okay with the Dissension Judgment Day. To answer my own question, I'm okay with it. I'd almost rather not because I would like to see them stand strong a little bit longer because for so long we wondered what the Judgment Day was. And it didn't feel important and didn't feel impactful. Well, now it does.
Yeah.
So I want to see them run as let's get them some momentum.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So again, not that they don't have it, but you get what I'm saying. They need to feel like they run Monday Night Raw before we get, before we start breaking apart. Yeah, exactly. Also very refreshing. I know that there are times when Roman kicks off a show and we get excited or whatever, but it was so refreshing to hear the world champions music to kick off a show. Like, didn't it just feel different?
It felt very different
when Rollins was coming out, and it was like, man, we get a champ on the show and we know we're getting it every week. And it just felt very old school to me. I loved it.
I'm enjoying the World Heavyweight Championship. I think they've done right by it so far.
Yep.
And they've done a very good job of making it feel special and feel important. I also think we should talk about the fact that Seth Rollins completely buried Finn Balor in the promo, and that was the way he did it was hilarious.
Yep.
I also think we should talk about the fact that Braun Breaker, I don't know if you saw this or not.
Yes.
Issued a challenge for Seth Rollins to come to NXT on Tuesday night to defend that World Heavyweight Championship against Braun. And to be honest, it goes completely against the draft. The draft is dead. The draft doesn't matter anymore. I like the thought of Seth going to different brands, defending that. Being like, I am the guy. Like, listen, Roman won't do this. I'll come do it. I'll come defend it. Like, I think that is fantastic.
I loved it. I thought it's great. I think that Rollins certainly needs to go face Breaker. I think I'm game for that.
Yeah.
I think it's so good. I saw that on social media. I was like, oh man, because I don't watch NXT. I'll be honest. I can't tell you the last time I sat down to watch NXT, but seeing that, I was like, okay, sign me up. I'll go watch that.
I'll watch NXT next week.
Let me watch that match for sure. All right, let's move on. We mentioned Money in the Bank a little bit ago. Let's talk about the Money in the Bank matches. We've seen qualifying matches so far. Shinsuke Nakamura, Ricochet, LA Knight have qualified for the men's match. We're going to see Baron Corbin versus Butch and Ali versus Santos Escobar coming up on SmackDown tonight. We've seen Zelina Vega, Becky Lynch, and Zoe Stark qualify for the women. Mia Yim versus Bailey and Io versus Shotzi. Both of those, all four of those matches are tonight, I believe, on SmackDown. Yeah. So loaded up on qualifiers. My question, though, is I'm looking at this field. It doesn't seem like a star-studded field for the Money in the Bank match. Why is that?
Well, I think for the women, it's hard. I would disagree just because Becky's in it, and presuming Bailey's going to be in it. I think those two make it feel star-studded.
Okay, so discount the women. Let's talk about the
men's side. I think you're right, but I love it.
Okay,
because I don't think we need an established person. I never think we need an established person to win Money in the Bank.
Okay, win it, but in it.
In it, yes, but win it, no. And I feel like every time an established person's kind of in it, they're always
the favorite
to win.
Sure, I get that.
So look, I love the fact that it's who? It's LA Knight, it's Ricochet, and it's Shinsuke. So far, I think you could throw in. I think Santos might end up in that.
Probably going to put Corbin in it. I'd say he'll beat Butch.
I think Butch beats Corbin because Corbin's in NXT doing the NXT thing.
Yeah, but he's a free agent.
I would say, but I think with Triple H in charge, I think Butch gets. Okay. I think Butch gets that spot. So that's 5 out of what, 7?
6
spots. So there's one other spot. I think you could throw together something. I think Montez Ford. I hate that they did LA Knight versus Montez Ford. I think Montez Ford and LA Knight both should absolutely be in this. I don't think you need a massive person to be in this because I think they're going to try to put on a young guy or a new face coming in. And I got to tell you, I know I'm a mark for him, but I'm a mark for a reason. If LA Knight does not win this briefcase, there's something wrong in this world.
I'll tell you what's wrong. Because I don't think he's going to win it. I literally just had this epiphany sitting right here listening to you talk about it. The 6th man in Money in the Bank is the one that's going to win it.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Solo Sikoa. To put another wrench into the Bloodline storyline.
But that would be 3 SmackDown and 2 Raw. I think they're going to do 3 and 3.
Right. We've got 1, 2. Corbin would be the free agent.
Yeah.
I think Solo gets in. I think Solo wins.
He might. I think it's too soon for Solo. I think the Bloodline storyline is more important than Money in the Bank. And I think if he had Money in the Bank, it would convolute it more than help it.
But
it would be it would be interesting.
You talked last week about Roman's going to lose his title and it's going to be out of nowhere. It's just going to happen.
Solo cashing in would be crazy.
Solo cashing in. That's his turn.
Yeah.
You get Roman and Solo versus the Usos at SummerSlam. Solo turns, they all drop Roman. Solo wins the belt.
Gosh, could you imagine?
That would
be insane if that actually happens.
I'm just saying.
I think if Solo's in it, Solo's going to be the favorite to win it. But
it's going to be hard for Solo to not be the winner if he's in it, I think.
Unless Roman cost him or the Usos cost him. I think you could go that route. I think LA Knight has been the hottest guy, one of the hottest guys in the company.
I completely agree.
Listen, we were afraid that the Bray Wyatt feud was going to bury him. He was the hottest thing in the company after the Bray Wyatt. The Bray Wyatt feud helped him become the hottest thing in the company.
I think he is like the first person that's happened to with Bray Wyatt.
Probably since Dana Bryan that has happened. And then, people were mad that Pat McAfee and Shane McMahon answered the open challenge at WrestleMania because they wanted LA Knight and Bobby Lashley to answer the open challenge. So, LA Knight is getting the biggest reactions. It seems like they're ignoring him. I think they've been ignoring him for a reason.
I do too.
So that when he wins Money in the Bank, he's going to cash in on Seth Rollins, and I think he's the next World Heavyweight Champion.
Give me LA Knight versus Seth Rollins. Oh my gosh. I want the promo wars afterwards.
Yes.
Dude, sign me.
I want LA Knight as world champion tonight.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's move on to our final question. Teased it in the open. The first main event for AEW Collision has been announced. Samoa Joe
Yep.
teaming with Bullet Club Gold, Jay Wyatt and Jay Wyatt. Listen to me. Jay White and Juice Robinson against the team of FTR and CM Punk. I'm just glad they announced this already, but what do you think? What's
I
your
love
thoughts
it.
on the match?
I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it kind of shows what Punk's first feud is going to be in AEW coming back. It's going to be with Joe, which, as the Ring of Honor fan I am, sign me up for that. It's going to be great.
Sure.
I do think, though, the fact that they're doing Punk and FTR together from the get-go is a sign that we might be heading to Punk versus this trio's 6-man tag match at Wembley. Like, I think this doesn't confirm it, but I think it just gives us an indication that we're heading in a very good direction for it.
Okay, let me ask you this before I tell you my opinion. What is the connection with Joe and Bullet Club Gold? And I'm asking you because I legit don't know.
I don't think there really is a connection.
Okay.
I think they're just trying to establish. Now, there is a rumor going around right now that Bullet Club Gold is going to start adding members to it. Mm-hmm. And we kind of saw that with Gun Club helping them in the main event, which I have my thoughts about Gun Club joining Bullet Club in the first place anyway. I'm not the biggest fan of it. There's not really a big connection with Joe, though, and Bullet Club, because Joe was in NXT when Bullet Club... No, Joe was in TNA when Bullet Club was in New Japan doing their thing. And then him and Finn came to NXT about the same time.
Yes.
So he never really crossed paths with them. I think it's just a way to get the biggest stars you have on that show right now in the same match together for the first show.
I got you.
As like the main event.
Let me tell you my opinion. I don't care. I legit have no feelings about this match.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's not me saying it's a bad match. It's a good match. It's whatever. I legit just, I don't have a thought.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, they announced this and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
Then again, you're not the demographic AEW is really.
That's 100%.
So I think
that's correct.
I think for, people who religiously watch AEW, AEW fans, I'm not in either camp. I like to stay in the middle. I enjoy both for what they are. But I am very much like a Ring of Honor guy. And a Bullet Club. I mean, look, I am a Bullet Club guy.
Exactly.
I've been like the first time you saw me in a wrestling t-shirt, I was wearing a Young Bucks Bullet Club t-shirt.
Exactly.
So like I'm a Bullet Club guy. Yeah. So seeing Bullet Club, Samoa Joe, Punk, and FTR in one ring together is like a fantasy world for me.
Sure.
Because it's just everything I want it to be. So I get what you're saying. I think for the crowd, though, the AEW is trying to draw in for Collision, I think it's the best one that you could put together.
I
outside of a miracle Kenny Omega versus CM Punk match that's not going to happen.
I agree with
Collision.
that. I agree with that because AEW does try to play well to their demographic, and I totally get that. And I understand that I'm apparently not their demographic, and that's fine. It is what it is. I have podcasts. I can tell you that I just don't care about it.
Yeah.
Because no. And speaking of the podcast, if you're digging what we're doing, subscribe wherever you find your podcast. And on our YouTube channel, we would appreciate it. Like that video, tell a friend. We would appreciate it very much. If this is your first time hanging out with us, this is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We're here for you each and every Friday. You can also check out our fantasy booking show on Tuesdays, the PBWF. It's available on a separate feed, so go seek that out. It's a lot of fun. Andy and I book current superstars on our own separate shows, compete against each other, storylines, yada, 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 all the things. Go check it out. Whole lot of fun. We have a blast doing that show with our friend Tyler Peters. So make sure that you go check that show out. Follow us on social media at PBW Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Andy is at Andy_PBWP. I am at Chris Belcher 24. And I can't forget our friends over at WrestleBuddy. Can't forget our friends over at SportsWire. Go support them. SportsWire Radio. That's sportnarium.com/player. Shout out to our boy, Mr. Tom Bryce, and that whole crew over there. Support all of our friends. We would appreciate that very much. I know they would too. All right. Let's hit some quick hitters before we get out of here. Just some things that didn't fit into the biggest questions in the world of wrestling. Rhea Ripley, we mentioned her earlier. It came out this week that she is the most followed active WWE superstar on TikTok.
Shocker.
She has more followers than Serena Williams, Jeremy Renner, the New York Yankees, and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it shows how popular Rhea is right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think people didn't realize how popular she was actually becoming, and it's working. So, congratulations to her, and keep up the good work.
That's so cool. So
Listen,
cool.
she's so popular, she's getting mentioned on AEW TV.
That's true. Thank you, Max Caster.
Hey, the fans are chanting for it too.
I know, that's true. That's true. They were. That's funny. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn had a vignette on SmackDown Friday night.
Yep.
Was absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Like, I was hooked. Like, I need Bray Wyatt to be brought back and them to be put with them.
Yeah, I think that would work really well. I think they,
or with Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross is another option that you could throw them with. I loved what they did in NXT. I didn't get to see everything because I'm like you. I don't watch NXT regularly most of the time.
Yep.
When something happens or there's an important thing, I tune in and check it out. But I caught them. They've done some great stuff. I don't know if this is in the quick hitters, so I'm just going to throw this out here now. We can transition. I have been very vocal about my lack of, I don't want to say respect, but my lack of liking Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
Who would have thought, though, that her and Shayna would be the best thing for the women's tag division? Because, my goodness, that match that they had on Raw with
Caden Carter and Katana Chance.
Yeah, I always want to call her Casey Catanzaro or whatever.
That is her name.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a great way to introduce them as to the Raw roster, to the Raw crowd, not bury them. But like there was a moment when they hit their finisher, and I was like, Ronda's about to get pinned on Raw. What is happening? I think they're doing great stuff right now. So I'm enjoying what they're doing. That match was fantastic.
Yes.
However, if you believe the reports and what Shayna Baszler said, that Ronda Rousey put her foot down to become tag champions, it's amazing that they listened to, Ronda Rousey, not the best women's wrestler of all time, and Sasha Banks, but that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, well, that's true. I did have it in the quick hitters, but what I was going to say about it, I 100% agree with everything you said. I don't know that I would have had them beat Ronda and Shayna on night one.
Yeah.
But I'm not happy that they lost.
I think they could have got DQ'd or something.
I think they could have been in a match with somebody else.
Yeah.
And Ronda and Shayna be on commentary or something. I know that
I agree.
It wouldn't have felt nearly as important if they hadn't been in there with Ronda and Shayna. But as over as they are and as good as they are, I think they needed a win before we immediately beat them.
My thing is, I think this was important for both teams.
Okay.
I think it was important for Ronda and Shayna to show they're not just, MMA girls who run their mouth and don't really do anything. They can back up somewhat of what they say. And I think it was important for the other girls, too, to be like, we're new here. Here's what we do. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, you're pretty good at it, too. So let's watch it.
Who would have known we would spend the last 3 to 4 minutes talking about the women's tag division in a positive way?
I know, right? Who would have
thought?
Wild. Who would have thought?
So crazy.
Who would have thought?
Triple H coming out on SmackDown. We talked about Roman earlier, but it's always great to see Triple H. Dude, that pop is just insane.
Yeah.
When Triple H comes out.
Yep.
I loved it so much.
Yeah, he's getting the Tony Khan levels and showing up on TV.
But at least he says when he's showing up and it's fine. It's not just stop it.
I just wanted to see what you were doing.
I know you did. I know. All right. We'll get to Tony Khan in a minute.
Oh no.
No, nothing bad. Nothing bad.
Okay, good.
We just have some AEW stuff to talk about. But before we do, Kevin Owens and Gunther on free TV television.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, please.
Listen, when that promo happened backstage and Kevin Owens started to make his way to the ring, I was like, there's no way we're actually getting this match on TV. Not for the title either, just on TV. And not only did we get it, but it was amazing.
It was
it was so good, and I loved every single second of it. I need them to run that back.
The only mistake that I think they made is they didn't advertise the match. Like, could you imagine if we would have gotten a bumper next week on Raw? This match is happening.
Yeah.
And they could have made it feel even bigger. But spur of the moment, I'm like you. I was like, what?
This is ridiculous.
What is happening right now?
So I think this is the first time they've ever fought. Like they've ever wrestled.
Yep.
And just a one-off? No. I need them to run that back for the IC title.
Gotta have it. The last thing with WWE, and then we'll hit a couple of AEW things. Edge has officially been announced for the August 18th SmackDown, which takes place in Toronto, Canada. If he follows through on his words, August the 18th is it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a wrestler. They lie.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it.
I don't think it is. I don't think I would be shocked if this is actually the end.
But he wants to go out on his own terms.
Yeah, and I get that. I think they're going to go to Toronto every year. So I think this might be a decoy.
Okay. I think he's going to try to retire and then somebody shows up.
Maybe.
Whatever.
Maybe. See, could you imagine if he tried to retire and like Cena's music hit?
Or Christian's
music hit. I think Christian's locked in AEW right now.
Yeah, he's trying to get Edge on that channel.
Yeah, he is. He is. I don't know. I would be shocked if this is actually the end. Because there's I know what he said, but I feel like they would be building it up more and he would be on TV more heading into it.
Well, we still got 2 months.
Yeah.
So we could get him.
Maybe, yeah.
We could get him. I need him in the Money in the Bank match, though. I think that would be interesting. I know he doesn't really do ladder matches anymore, but I think it would be cool to get him in there one more time, and especially if this is it, All right, let's hit a couple of AEW things really quick. MJF and Adam Cole. Yes, please.
Yeah, the promo was fantastic.
It was so good.
It was so good.
It was really, really good.
I don't think we're getting it right away, though.
We're getting it next week.
I don't think for the title we're getting it right away. Like I think something's going to happen. I think Jericho gets involved next week.
Oh,
and I think we still run with Jericho and Cole for some time. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'm wrong because I don't want Jericho and why am I saying Jericho and Owens? Jericho and Cole doing a bunch together because it hasn't really worked out well here recently. If we don't do Cole and MJF, because I think when Cole fights MJF for the title, I think he wins.
I hope so.
I feel like it's too soon though to take the title off MJF. I don't know where MJF goes from here.
Well, the next pay-per-view is All Out or All In.
Yeah.
You got All In and All Out coming up. So you have your Wembley main event of CM Punk and FTR versus the Elite, and then you have your All Out main event of Adam Cole versus MJF.
Yeah. I could see that. I think that could work.
I agree. I think Adam Cole, like this is the time to put the belt on Adam Cole, but it's not the time to take it off of MJF. and you can't do that on a random Dynamite.
No.
Like you just
it's not even for the title.
Right. No, I know next week is not.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying in the future, you can't do it on a
it can't be like Winter's Coming or something.
I don't even care if it's Fight for the Fallen or what. You can't. No, that's a pay-per-view. Yeah. You got to do that at a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they've had big title changes on TV before, though.
Yeah.
Winter is Coming is when Kenny Omega beat Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
I don't know. Man.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But I'm
excited for it. Yeah. The promos are going to be great. I think this was one of Adam Cole's better promos.
Yep.
I think this is his best promo since he cut that promo on Karrion Kross.
Right.
NXT.
Which was really funny that they referenced it.
Yeah.
That was very cool. Last thing that we'll talk about, I can't go this podcast without burying AEW one more time. We've talked about attendance a whole lot in the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The attendance at Dynamite on Wednesday was pretty rough.
Where were they?
Colorado.
That's probably why.
It was rough.
Yeah.
Like you could see, they tried their best to hide it on TV.
Yeah.
But the whole upper deck was blocked off. The whole back section was blocked off. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
Dude.
But the thing is,
I'm not one of these marks. I'll go ahead and say up front. You all that listen to this podcast know that I like to dog AEW just because it's my shtick now. I have to find ways to dog AEW. But I'm not one of these marks that on the internet say, oh, they have low attendance, so they're suffering and they're not doing good and blah, blah, blah.
Wembley's proven all of that wrong.
Like I would be living under a rock if I didn't see the numbers that they're doing, the way that the network is backing them, another show, Wembley, all the, so I'm not dogging them because of that, but man,
I think it's the Colorado market because WWE doesn't go to Colorado a whole lot.
Maybe that's true.
I think it's the Colorado market.
Maybe that's true, but I just feel like that the Dynamite, I literally would not bring this up had we not just talked about it with Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
And how like that's one of their home bases and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think the thing is, and I think they're learning this because we've talked about this. West Coast does not do very well.
That's true.
Like unless you're in LA
Mm-hmm.
or I think they'll
Phoenix.
always do well in Seattle because of Bryan Danielson. And there's like a lot of people from
And
Seattle.
Darby.
There's a lot of people from Seattle on the AEW roster.
Speaking of people from Seattle, Aubrey Edwards is apparently going to be in a match.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
But I think the West Coast, I think every wrestling promotion struggles in the West Coast.
I can see that.
At least that does TV. So like, if you look back every time they're in the East Coast, I think they're going to do great numbers. I think if they're in California, they're going to do great numbers.
It's that in between.
It's the in between area from like basically Kansas over that I don't think anybody outperforms anybody there.
I gotcha. It's just really interesting to look at, especially right now where we're seeing that WWE is breaking their own attendance records and doing crazy good numbers right now all over the place and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's just interesting to think about, but you're right. It could be the Colorado market. We'll have to see. I don't know
if this like continues to happen. If like in Chicago they're struggling, I'll start to be more worried.
Sure,
but it's Colorado.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
I got you. All right. That's going to put a bow on this week's episode of Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Again, if this is your first time, please hit that subscribe button. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Andy's at Andy_PBWP. I'm at Chris Belcher 24. Make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel as well. Like that video. Support our friends over at SportsWire and WrestleBuddy. The podcast is available wherever you find your podcast. If you just want your traditional audio, make sure that you're tuned in. Google, Spotify, Apple, all the places. Don't forget our fantasy booking show, PBWF, available on another feed. Subscribe to that as well. It's a lot of fun. That show drops on Tuesdays. This show drops on Fridays. Speaking of dropping on Fridays, Andy, next week we will drop an episode next Friday, which is one day ahead of the first AEW Collision. It is right at our fingertips. We're going to answer your viewer questions next week, and we're going to do a little Forbidden Door fantasy booking next week on the show.
That's very exciting.
So come hang out with us.
That's very exciting.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey.
Got a fantasy book, some Forbidden Door. So come check it out. Hang out with us. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. This has been the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys down the road.